Hello there, voltage modular people. Poohbear here, and welcome to my channel. And today we're going to be looking at precise length AHR. AHR actually stands for attack, hold, and release. So basically, this device is an envelope generator with a few little subtle twists built in. So what makes this a little bit different? Usually, you would specify, say, an attack length, a hold, and a release, and that makes your overall length of your envelope. We actually specify the actual length of the envelope, and then we're going to carve in the attack, and then we carve in the release. Whatever remained is the hold. There's nothing stopping us actually carving them so the attack and the release touch each other, so there is no hold. And we can also change the shape of the actual curve on the attack and the release as well. So in a nutshell, all you need to do is sort of provide it a trigger to fire off the actual envelope. We can take a CV in, and then we actually can attenuate that signal via the envelope, and we can push that out. We've also got a separate output, which is running parallel to this one, which can be from -5 to +5, and it can attenuate that voltage and send that out. And that's quite good to say, sending out to filters and things. And by the way, if I was to say set that to -1, it would never go positive. It would attenuate down to 0 volts and then back up again. So your normal kind of envelope stuff. The envelopes obviously is quite different because you can set the actual length. You can set it from one sample, which is not really an AHR. 3 samples, you can say yes, you could get an AHR out of 3 samples, but it actually also goes up to 999 minutes and 59 seconds, 999 milliseconds, and 47 samples, which is one sample shy or short of 16 hours and 40 minutes. So let's go through all the controls, starting at the top. At the very top, we've got our normal kind of trigger, greater than. This appears, I say normal, this is what appears on a lot of my devices. So basically all I need is above a 0 volt to actually trigger something off, or we can actually click this on and this puts it into the box standard cherry world where you need 2.5 volts and above to activate it. I come from Reason, so we do a lot of things above 0 volts, and that's why I have this option, especially when I start wireless up to things like, say, velocity stuff, where I might be playing and I might want to trigger this from the velocity data, so I can obviously have that quite low and it will still work. Next to the trigger input, we have a go, so we can actually manually fire this device off, which comes in very, very handy when you're obviously testing it. Next to it, you've got a stop, so just in case you say, oh, I've set to take 10 minutes off and it's been running, you can actually obviously manually stop it. As I said, we've got this CV input, so this can be any kind of a sort of a signal coming in here. I tend to push an audio signal through. We can also attenuate that signal down if we need to. At the bottom here, we have this little restart, and this restart is purely to do with this trigger. As default, it's actually off. So what will happen is a trigger can come along, and let's say I had this set for whatever minutes. There we go, 6 minutes, and we're running away. So let's fire that off, and we're actually starting to run away. If another trigger comes in, it doesn't affect the envelope at all. The envelope is running, it's going to ignore any further triggers. So it doesn't matter if another 10,000 triggers come in within this 6 minutes, it's just going to totally ignore it. And by the way, this is just sort of a graphical kind of view of the attack, the release, and where we are sort of within that kind of envelope movement. So with restart enabled, obviously any new triggers will come in will keep restarting the envelope back to the beginning. So this is quite a handy one that you might want that turned off, and you might have a random signal coming in here, and then obviously a particular random signal might obviously far off to trigger it off, so it started. So any other triggers which are above that voltage won't affect it at all. The go, however, will overwrite. It doesn't matter if the restart's on or off. So say you're manually pushing go, so you know you're restarting it, so we don't have to worry about that. And as I say, now we've got to stop. We can obviously click on stopping it and actually stop it. As I say, we've got the length where we can come in and you just literally click and just drag up and down what you want. If you try and put everything to 0 and you click on go, it will default to 1 sample. It has to obviously have something in there for it to actually work. Let's actually move on to the fun stuff of actually setting the envelope up itself. We have an attack and we've also got a release. Please note the release is actually the controls are the reverse of the attack. So you turn the attack up going clockwise and the release gets turned up anti-clockwise. It may look a little bit bizarre when you first look at this, but the simple reason being is because the attack and the release can never be over 100% because this is our length. So as I bring my release down, I'm also going to be, sorry, as I'm pushing my release up, I think of my release, obviously bringing it down, but as I'm pushing it up, I'm also bringing the attack down. And you can see by this line roughly what we're doing. So now if I stop my attack there and actually then say, I'm going to turn my release down, which is obviously moving it along, the blue line would represent the hold. So we could turn these all the way off if we wish to, and there you go. We've got ourselves now a gate, and you could actually use this as a signal coming here, being gated via this, and have an absolutely exact amount of value that you wish to open that gate for. But obviously we can play with the attack and the release, which make a big difference. The other big thing is when you do edit value, you may notice like on that one there, actually might have even been a better one. There we go. It goes down to quite a few decimal places, so you can actually type in quite a lot of decimal places, and when you go to edit it, you can get back to it as well. The number of devices, even though you can type in quite a long number, when you go to edit it, it actually obviously truncates it back up and it's sort of rounded it off. With the curves, as soon as you apply, say, a little bit of curve, this is just a picture to show you which way the curve's going. So really, even though I put a little bit onto that, that's still quite straight, but it's obviously just curving ever so slightly that way. And obviously the more and more we push it up, it's going to be going sharper and sharper. Now, from one side to the other, that's obviously we're going this way with this curve. That's -1 volt, as you can see, and it goes up to 1 volt. But you can overdrive this, so there's nothing stopping you shoving 5 volts into this, and it's going to really squash that curve right down. You're going to get to a point that you're squashing it so much, you're going to be kind of better off just having a linear curve and having a really short attack. So you're actually going vertical up, because that's effectively what you'll be doing with this. By overdriving this, you'll be making it so sharp going up that, yeah, you could do it another way. But it's there if you wish to do that. With regards to the attack and the release, when you modulate these, you can only actually modulate them with a negative value. You specify the maximum value, and then the modulation you're applying is a negative value, so they never go over each other. I had it where I was pushing negative and positive, and then obviously when this was going over, I had to sort of then dial that one and change that one, and then I had to say, well, who had precedence, and it got very messy, and I found this was quite a good solution to say, fine, we just put in negative voltage, and that should actually manage it. Okay, I bought this little friend lock, a DC source, just to demonstrate this. So as soon as I start bringing obviously the negative down, you can see that we're actually modulating it down here. But if I was to push it into a positive, it'll actually start coming back down again. And the reason it's doing this is because we've got these two little simple options here, which are to do with a negative. If I turn it off and I start pushing a positive signal, it's going to ignore it. So any positive signal, it will ignore. And obviously it'd only work on the negative value. But with it highlighted, when you go to push a positive value into it, it will actually start inversing it and obviously start taking that modulation off again. So you can still use like LFOs and things on it quite effectively. You can still do quite a bit with it. As I say, with the CV curves, it doesn't matter. You can have a negative and a positive. You don't need much of a negative or a positive to actually get this one going, as you can see. And now I can just totally overdrive it. So that curve, as I say, is being squashed right down internally. You just can't see it going on. This just graphically shows exactly what's going on with the envelope. Green being attack, yellow being release, and if we was to go into the middle, we'll actually have a hold. Finally, at the bottom, we've got obviously the outputs. As I say, this is where we can obviously set up a positive or a negative voltage, which is going to be coming or attenuated really via our envelope prior to actually coming out. We also got some other little options. Obviously, out is actually going to turn that port off altogether. It's just in case you want to rather unplug it, you could just obviously switch it off. And we've got these other two options, which are to do with attack and release. Basically, if I was to turn it off, it's going to ignore any attack, and it would be basically like a hold. So it's just going to be using the hold portion, and then it'll only honour the release. You can actually turn these both off, and this will go on, like I said before, be acting like a bit like a gate. Obviously, it'd be a fixed length gate, or exactly the lengths you've actually set up, which you could have going through here. And there's nothing stopping me saying, actually, I want the attack to affect there and the release only to affect this port here. So you can do that. Obviously, on the CV out, you've also got the out as well. Now, a little bit higher up, we've got this re-trig. Re-trig is to do with restart. If restart is enabled, re-trigger will, when a new trigger comes in, and if it's currently through, say it's set for 4 minutes and it's only 2 minutes through, and the new trigger comes in, it will actually drop this voltage to a 0 volt for one sample, which is usually more than enough to restart things. So that's all that retrigger there's for. And over this side we have a through, which is your normal kind of through, or it's got a hold. So for the hold to be enabled, you've got to have something plugged into it. So let's plug something in. So the throughs is going to take the signal in, it's going to attenuate it down and put it through. The hold is actually going to do a sampling hold. So at the time we get a trigger, it's going to sample this port, take that value, then it's going to attenuate it through, and then it's going to send it out. Now, during, again, say we had this set for 4 minutes, so it's working on that value, and we had a trigger come in and we had restart enabled, well, it's not going to resample. It's still going to say, no, I'm only going to restart my timer, and I've still got that same value, but we've got this and that's really to do with re-hold. So now, if a new sample came in, say it was 4 minutes, we was only 2 minutes in, and another trigger came in, it will actually say, okay, I'm actually going to resample this value to get the current value, and then I'm going to hold that, and then obviously attenuate that through the actual envelope, and then send that out as well. So that's, I think I've covered all the options there on the Precise Length AHR. I think the next thing to do is to go through some demonstrations, and also I am going to be doing a totally separate video where I'm going to be demonstrating this, going through quite a variety of different instruments, and I'll be making quite a few sounds and doing quite a few bits and bobs with this. So let's very, very quickly build ourselves a patch, and also we're going to be building ourselves a patch with the AHR, because that's what this video is about. The other sort of things I'm going to actually need, so I'm going to have to lean across here. I'm going to want some noise. Yeah, let's grab that noise. I also want to go and grab the PSP Nitro. Whoops, let's my nitro like that. There we go, on that filter. Let's grab that out. And I think there's a couple of other things I'm going to grab. Yeah, let's grab a gator. I always like a gator. And I'm also going to grab myself a storing forward, and we'll use them a little bit later. So this should do for the moment. I'm just going to turn that down because it'd be quite loud. So we've got ourselves a bit of white noise. If we just to put this through here for now, very, very quickly, it's going to be quite loud. In fact, I'll turn it down here as well. Oh, say it's quite loud. A poppy sound. It's only one sample. So let's ramp that up to a couple hundred. Start with. Cool. So you can hear it there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it loads of release to start with, and I'm going to bring that curve down to about there. That's the sound we've got now. So I'm going to push that through the BQF. I'm going to take it out of the BQF and push it through itself again. Put these both on bandpass. I'm going to grab that and push that through mid device. So we're going to shove the frequencies up because we want it nice and tinky sounds. Same with that one. Let's push that up a bit. I'm going to push the resonance up, probably about right. Maybe a bit more. Might go for a bit more. And then we're just going to bring them off and bring it around. Let's see what we've got. Okay, there we go. And I might give it a little bit of saturation. Not bad, what we're after. So yeah, so we've got ourselves like a little tambourine sound going on. So what I'm going to quickly do is come up the pattern over here. I'm going to drive this from my storing forward. So from the out, going to go into the storing forward. I'm going to put the link on. So this is now driving. It doesn't matter if I take the global or the out. I'm going to take the out for the moment and put that into the in. If you actually listen, it's like a which is actually wrong to what's being played. So if I hit restart, it's going to make sure it's re-triggers. That's a lot better already. And I might even put a little bit of a swing onto that. And I'm just going to hit out just to stop it. So it's not quite right there sound-wise. There's a couple of things we can do here. In fact, yeah, let's say I'm going to go and grab. Let me go and grab. An in-range range. That's it. I'm going to get my randomizer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive my randomizer from the AHR. So it's going to get a trigger in. That's going to drive this. I'm going to bring this down ever so slightly. I'm going to put it onto 1 volt. So what that's going to do is going to be equivalent. I'm going to pull this all the way down, and then this is going to be equivalent of driving it up to about that high. It's going to drive. This is going to randomly choose a value between there and there. So that's going to give us a little bit of variety when we're playing. And I could say to this, hey, don't ever play the same value. Always make sure it's a different value. And that's sounding all right. I could even do something with the attack and bring some of the attack down. If I was going to do the attack, I'll probably go that way, I reckon. And we need a bit of an attack. Yeah, that'll do. It's a very small amount. That's like 0.4. It's just taking that pop off. Hey, so there we go. Nice and quick, nice and simple. And if we was push this up even higher, we'd probably get a bit more of a sound. So that's what that curve's there doing. If I just disconnect this for the moment, if I was to push this up to the top, you're going to get it. Yeah, bring it down, it mutes it. And halfway is quite a nice-ish sound. Yeah, so, but yeah, having a little bit of randomization going on there makes it sound quite cool. Nice and straightforward. Let's quickly make up another sound. I'm just going to grab these, get rid of these. We're not going to need this. In fact, we won't need any of this stuff. Let's get rid of all that. And I want a filter. The filter I'm actually going to go for is the good old VM900 904A. That's the filter I rather like for the moment. And I'm going to quickly grab myself a limiter down, he says. If I can spell, that would do. We'll have that limiter there for the moment. So I'm going to shove that through the limiter. Boom, boom, boom. And yeah, we'll have to have a little play with this. I'm going to use this voltage here to actually drive it, so I might attenuate that down so I'm not driving it quite as hard, so we'll have a play around with that in a second. I'm going to also take that signal out of this filter and put it through the main. That's going to go through, that's fine. I might have to have a play around with, obviously, all these settings, were something else. Main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push this resistant right up, and I'm going to pull this down. Or in fact, they call it regeneration on this particular device, and that should start sounding, yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, maybe a bit higher. Get rid of all that attack. That's getting a bit better. So let's take that curve off. And I probably would say that, hey, let's oversaturate it here. Not a bad little kick. Yeah, and it is a case of just sort of playing around with these things. You'll find we can have a little bit of fun with this, or even go this way. Actually, I think we'll give it a, yeah, that'll give it more of an 808 style. Probably need a bit more. There we go. We can go and do acid now, can't we? Yeah, so that's a bit closer. So let me just turn off the cable so we can see the value there. There we go. Oh, double click that. Oh, because I hovered over it, didn't I? Dirt donut. Because I'm hovering on that one. Yeah, so there we go. 187. So that's roughly what that is. I'm saying, just playing around with this. We could have a bit of fun with that. Get up a little bit. Obviously, you can get yourself some tom-toms going, probably. Hey, but there we go. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.